Okay, so for today, what are we gonna do?
Okay, Iman, to get started, we want to write a program that puts a number in the array.
Alright then, to do that, as always, we're gonna create another project, a Java application. Let's call it the array project. Okay, let's remove these comments first. Okay, so first of all, we're gonna get n numbers from the user. So I'm gonna import my scanner from the Java library, java.util.scanner, and next I'm gonna ask my user to enter the count of the numbers that he or she wanna put in the array. Enter count of the numbers. Okay, I'm gonna have to put this into a variable, so I'm gonna define it up here. It's an integer variable called count. And next I'm gonna define my scanner. So scanner input equals new scanner system.in. So my count variable is equal to input dot next int. Next I'm gonna define my array. So after getting the count, here we define our arrays. I'm gonna define it as a double array. So double nums, let's call it nums, is equal to new double, and it has as much as count variable value in it. So next I want to ask my user again to enter the numbers. So let's copy paste this part and enter the numbers this time. Okay, then using a for loop, I'm gonna fill my arrays. Int I is equal to 0, I until I is smaller than count. I plus plus means add one value to the I integer. So here we're gonna fill our arrays. Nums I is equal to input dot next double, as we define our array with the double value. So that's it, that's gonna fill our array.
Now, if you want to sort the array in a class, how will the program continue?
Well, to sort our array in another class, first we have to create another class. So a Java class, let's call it sort. Okay. So here I'm gonna create a method, a public method actually, public static, because I don't want to create a class with this method. Don't want to create an object, excuse me. Static void. I'm gonna print out the results in this class, so I'm gonna use a void, and that's it. Let's call it sort. So it has to have one input, the array. So I'm gonna give it here double called array, and here first of all I'm gonna define a variable called temp. I'm gonna tell you why a bit later. So to do a sort for the array, we need to, 2 4s in between each other. So first one is gonna have to be I, and I is equal to 0, and it goes until it gets to array dot length but -1, because we're gonna have to go one value before the ending value. Like, I wanna explain it a bit later. So I plus plus, and inside this for loop I'm gonna write another for. This one is j equals to 0, and until j is smaller than array dot length -1 again, j plus plus. So inside this for, I need an if statement saying that if array j was smaller than array j plus 1, what then? Then put array j inside the temp variable, and then put array j inside array j plus 1. Then put array j plus 1 into the array j. J plus 1. So after putting array j plus 1 into array j, at last put temp into array j plus 1. So that's it. These lines are going to sort our array from the biggest number to the smallest number. So for the ending part, I'm going to print out my sorted array. So int I equal to 0, I until I is smaller than array dot length, then I plus plus. So we're gonna print out the array here, array I and plus 2 spaces, 3 spaces, So that's it for the class. And inside our main program, we're gonna call our sort class, sort.sort. It's because, you know, I define my method with the same name as my class, but that's not really a problem. You can just change it or not. And wants a value from me. I'm gonna give it nums, the array that I defined here in my main class, in my main project. So let's run the program, see how it works. Okay, enter the count of the numbers. I want to say I have 5 numbers, 2, 7, 1, so as you can see, my numbers are sorted from the biggest number to the smallest number.
And now we want that by calling another class, calculate the maximum number of array.
So to find the maximum number in our array, in another class again we create another class. I call this one max. So here I'm again going to create another method, static method, no outputs, no returns, and I'm gonna call this one maximum. So it again has the one input. I'm gonna name this one array again, but you can name it whatever you want. So here I'm gonna define a variable called max, and I want to put the first value of the array into this max variable. So array with 0 index, and I want to need a for loop int starting from 1, because I actually put the 0 index into the max, so don't need to, you know, check the 0 index again until I reaches array.length I plus plus. Okay, so in this for, check if array with index of I is bigger than max, and if that was true, put the array with the index of I in the max variable. So yeah, that's gonna get us the maximum number into the max variable. And last, I'm gonna print out this variable, print ln, so the maximum number is plus max variable. And in our main program, we're gonna call this method and give it the nums variable, but you know, to have the sort, I'm gonna have the another print line here saying this is the sorted print ln sorted array. So I think that would be better. So let's run our program. Okay, enter the count of the number, let's say 4 numbers. 2, 4 plus 5, 1, 7. Okay, there's an issue here. We have 7, 4.5, 2, and 1. And after that, the maximum numbers. So clean it. We have the right value. We have the right outputs, but to clean it up a bit, you need to put this outside the 4. Here the maximum number is gonna have to be print ln, and let's have another print ln. And I think that will clean up our code a bit. Let's see. Okay, 4 numbers, 5, 8, 1, 2.3. Okay, sorted array is 8, 5, 2, and 1. That's right. And the maximum number is 8. And that is correct as well.
And if you want to calculate the minimum number in the array, then how should we change the program? I mean, can we with this class, or do we have to design another class for it?
Well, finding the minimum number in this array is pretty much similar to the maximum number, so we can actually do it in this class, but need a few changes. Like I named my class maximum, and I want to name it like maximum underline minimum. And here I want to need another variable called min. This is how I do it. Maybe you have a better way, but this is how I would do it. So I'm gonna copy paste my statements here after this part. Again, having this 4. This time I want to say min, and if my array I was smaller than minimum, put array I in this minimum variable. So variable min might not have been initialized. So I found out what the problem was. As I put array index 0 into the max, I'm gonna do the same for the min variable actually. Or we can just yeah, let's do that. So that solved that problem. So this here, instead of saying the maximum number is, I want to say the minimum number is plus minimum. And if the array was smaller than my minimum variable, it's gonna put that array into my minimum variable. So in the end, we're gonna print out this variable. So in my main class, now that I changed my class, I want to change the name of this part too. So every time I call this max class and give it the nums array, it's gonna print out the maximum and the minimum number of my array. So let's check if the program works. So enter the count of the numbers, let's say 5 numbers. 5, 3, 4.1, 8, and 14. So the sorted array looks like this, and the maximum number is 14, and the minimum number is 3. That is correct. So the program works correctly.
And what is the best way if you want to calculate sum and average by one class?
So the best way for me is to create another class, as always. Let's call this one sum and AVE, short for average. Now I want to create another method again. It's a public static void method. Let's call this one sum underline AVE. So again, it has to get the array from the main program, so it's a double called array, and inside this method I wanna have a sum variable. It's a double variable called sum, and it is equal to 0. So using a for loop, I wanna find the sum of the some of the values in my array. So it's equal to 0, and until I reaches array dot length, add 1 value to I. So inside my for, I want to say sum. My sum variable is equal to sum plus array with I index. So this statement is gonna find me the sum of my numbers, and for finding the average, I'm gonna define another variables called AVE, and equal this AVE to sum divided by array dot length. And in the end, I want to print out these two variables, so that print ln the sum of numbers is plus sum, and the same for average, the average of numbers plus AVE. So let's run the program, see how it works. But first I want to call this method from my class called sum and AVE dot sum underline average, and I'll give it the nums array. Now it's time to run our program. Okay, enter the count of the numbers. Let's say we have 6 numbers. The numbers are 8, 4.1, 5, 1, 6, 7, and done. So our sorted array looks like this. So 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.1, and 1. And the maximum number is 8. That's right. The minimum number is 1. That is right as well. So the sum of the our numbers is 31.1 that I believe is true, and the average number is 5.18333. It goes on until however decimals after it needs. So that's it. Our program works, and don't forget to subscribe us.